I saw some Democrats had the signs that said false or save Medicare. But you were also heckling a speech, I believe.
I don't think I wouldn't call what I was doing heckling, right? I wasn't
you were shouting something. What were you shouting?
Look, I shouted out lies, and it was hard. I mean, to sit in there and to kind of see what he was doing, and just I want to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt to think he's not that ignorant and uninformed to think that actually there were thousands and thousands of people that were over the age of 100 that were still collecting Social Security. I mean, that's already kind of been proven or shown, right? That hey, that's not true. This is the thing that happens there with these old computer systems are all throughout the government, right? They got them at the Department of Defense too. They're at the IRS, and they're one of the reasons they're so old is because they spent years upon years of kind of not upgrading them when they should have.
Yeah.
And so they're stuck with these old things, these old systems that I mean, they're working still, but they're old. And so it doesn't account for when people go, right? I mean, we had this problem with Y2K, right? It was none of the computers were kind of, all the computers are fixed to kind of only the last 2 years. So they thought we were going to go back to 1900 and then what was going to happen then? It was this big old scare that we had, right? But for him to actually kind of think that, to believe this, then
it means
he's just
really,
lying.
Really stupid, or
he's just lying, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think it is? I think it's probably the first one.
I think he was lying.
Yeah.
So exactly what I said. I said he was lying. Lies is what I was shouting. And then when he rambled off about all this, the fraud they're finding in the government, right? Just more lies, because that's already kind of been proven too and shown, right? That Doge is not finding all these things, and they're counting contracts that have already expired, or they're double counting things. And one of the things I shouted was, if you're going to list all this fraud, I said, don't forget the $400 million Tesla contract. Right, which has kind of been out there in the papers too, that they actually kind of bumped that up from, I think it was originally they were talking about 400,000 or something, and then it kind of went up to 400 million. They stopped that one, but count that with the rest of the things that you're saying are fraud.
Yeah, I don't know how long this Trump Elon Musk love story can continue.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that we know from Donald Trump, right? There's always a love story that starts out, and you can see it with General Mattis, who was his first, Secretary of Defense. He's my mad dog. This guy's my mad dog. He's my guy. And then 2 years later, he was like the worst. According to Donald Trump, he was the worst, Secretary of Defense we ever had in the country.
Yeah, well, it's a loyalty thing, right? You can't cross his loyalty,
right?
And with Elon, Trump hasn't been seeming to want to cross the loyalty, but Thursday, a couple days after his speech, there was a meeting at the White House with Elon, Trump, and his cabinet officials, and Marco Rubio and Elon Musk are going back and forth. Marco Rubio is furious and finally speaking his mind that Elon Musk has forced him to make these fires in his agency and is wanting more people fired at the State Department. And Marco Rubio wants to do his job, right? And Marco Rubio finally hits it back, and Trump's here moderating. And Trump finally said that Doge has the ability to make recommendations, but ultimately it's up to the officials who run their agencies do their jobs. So I guess my question is Trump, do we think this is going to last with him, Elon? And why would he even be motivated to not be his best friend in the first place?
I think it'll last as long as it's beneficial to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right. So as long as he's able to kind of use him and kind of keep it going and it's beneficial to him, then Elon Musk will be around.
Yeah.
As soon as, like, again, as we look at his past and his experiences, right? As soon as he crosses a line, or there's a lack of loyalty towards Donald Trump, or he no longer serves his purpose,
Yeah.
then Elon Musk will be no more Doge, or he'll put somebody else in charge, or who knows. That's the crazy thing too, right? Is, Elon Musk is running it, but yet he's not the official in charge.
And Trump loves that Elon can take all the flack and all the.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's another thing right there. Donald Trump never takes responsibility for anything, right? It's always somebody else's fault.
And that's not a quality of a masculine man.
That's what I would say. When you look at, like, there's a Donald Trump. Henry Truman used to have, a sign on his desk, right? The buck stops here, meaning, it's me. It's like final decisions, they're mine, right? And,
right.
And I remember watching it was a movie about him, kind of based on the book about Harry Truman. But they made a great documentary, which is part of the American Experience, and then they made HBO made a movie about Harry Truman. But there was a great line in that movie. He was talking to one of his advisors and said, like, hey, I make decisions. I'm here to make decisions. And then I'm kind of paraphrasing right here because I don't remember exactly word for word. But and then so the advisor said, well, what if it's the wrong one? Well, then I'll make another one. Right. To me, that was kind of like, that's what leadership is about, right? It's like you lead and you take responsibility. Is that, if you you're putting a spot of responsibility to make decisions, right? And if it doesn't go right, oh, well, you know what? Let's make another one. And then we'll kind of, let's make one that'll hopefully make better. And we learn from our mistakes and make another decision that's going to make the situation better. That's what leadership is about. It's not about, that was them. They did that. I had nothing to do with that. They were horrible. And so that's why I've gotten rid of them now. And now we're going to get somebody else who's going to do a great job and be better than the last person. But, take responsibility for your actions. That's what being an adult is. That's what being a grown-up is. That's what being a man is.
That requires humility.
Yeah.
And an understanding that you're not a perfect person. I don't think Donald Trump feels that way. I think a raging narcissist is the best way to describe him and everything he's done. You look and you watch a tape from the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2013, 2014. Donald Trump was in attendance and President Obama is telling jokes. And Donald Trump was the target of one of them, and he's sitting in the back there, not too happy. I think part of me thinks that Donald Trump did what he did and ran for president simply out of ego.
Yeah, I kind of think so too.
And when I look at his decision making in office, what he got out of the Iran deal was a big one that stood out to me. For what reason? What reason was there to get out of the JCPOA besides to say, oh, Obama did that, the black president did that?
I think we're starting to see another pattern right now, and you just saw it in the at the address on Tuesday, which he caught everybody by shock, even the Republicans, when he said we need to get rid of the CHIPS Act. That was a horrible deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all about investing in America, which is the point of tariffs in the first place, which he is so obsessed with.
Right. The pattern I think we're starting to see now is that if one of his rivals, President Obama, who made fun of him, so now he's my enemy.
Right.
Joe Biden, who beat him in, the election of 2020, now he's my enemy. He is going to want to take down whatever it is they've done that's good. Yeah. And he's going to talk bad about it just for the simple fact that it was his rival's idea and something that they did that has been positive.